Hey there everyone, Matt Campbell here, and welcome to another video tutorial series from Action Line Studios. Today I'm going to be showing you how to rough out a page from a thumbnail. All the different steps that I use to go from a thumbnail drawing to a rough draft. Now I am going to be doing this today on Photoshop, but it can be done on paper as well because we're mostly going to be showing principles, not exactly a step-by-step how-to guide. So let's get started. Okay, so here I have a thumbnail of the page I'm going to be working on here for Mythica. And I'll zoom in a little bit. As you can see, it's pretty simple, trying to keep faces down to the bare minimum. But the main thing that I was looking for is that I wanted to have enough space for dialogue, and I wanted the flow to work. And I think that what I've got here works pretty well. So now I want to take that to the rough draft stage and sort of work out all the details. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing is I have to make sure that I'm working on the right size page. Now what I do, which is just one of many methods here, is I actually have my page already set to the proper size of a comic book page. Here you see I've got 6.87 by 10.5 at 300. Right, so this is finished print size. And now I have my thumbnail here. So the first thing that I'll do is scale this up. All right. Right away you can see that my thumbnail is not exactly perfect to the dimensions of the page. So the good news is that gives me a little bit more breathing room to work with. Alright, so the first thing that I might do is go through here and just sort of move things around a little bit with the Lasso Tool. Make sure that I get everything where I want it, right? Might as well do that before I even start drawing. So move that up to there. And also grab the bottom one. Move it down here. And this one I'm going to scale a little bit. And that gives me more room to work with on these as well. So I don't have to worry about cramming them in quite so much. So this gives me a lot more room vertically to put those words. A little bit of breathing room, right? So I might actually go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, so this is just a guideline. I have it here in red, so I'm going to turn that down. It's already down a little bit, but I'm going to turn down quite a bit more. All right, now I'm going to make my new layer. Now it's important that you don't zoom in too much. I'm going to try to keep the page about this level where I can see practically the whole page. If you're zooming in like this much or farther, whatnot, then you're really getting into a lot of details. And remember, this is still the rough draft. The point of the rough draft is to work out perspective, proportions, anatomy, and page flow. Start to put a little bit of the faces in, but not too much, because when we do the final, we're going to draw much bigger. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and grab a nice cyan here. Get my pencil. I'm just using a round brush, and let's get started here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to start with is this first panel. I'm going to sort of block it in here. Now, the first part of this page is establishing the scene. Our characters have moved locations and are now on the ship. In the previous page, they weren't. So whenever a character changes locations, changes scenes or settings, I like to start the page with an establishing shot and clearly let the viewer and the reader know where are we now. So I wanted to show that they're on this ship. So I start with a wide shot and wide enough to see that there's a ship. And in the background, we're going to see here the burning city, and that's sort of indicative of the last page as well. Sort of ties us back into where we were at and where we are now. Um, and you'll notice I'm sketching here pretty quickly. I did speed up the video about 2 times so that it wouldn't be as boring to watch. But I'm just putting in, a few details here. I'm not going crazy with the details because this is not the final art. So I want to mostly focus on making sure that perspective, proportions, and anatomy are correct, as well as making sure that I have enough room for dialogue. Another thing that I'm doing is trying to pay attention to eye flow or panel flow. You'll notice that the ship is overlapped over the panel, which is going to help guide the viewer's eye. And the ship's also flowing from right to left, which is another indicator that's going to push me down this direction. All right, so now I'm going to just kind of drop in some more details. I want to show where they came from. So I'm putting this burning city here in the background because, like I said, that shows where they we're at in the last panel. But notice I'm not going crazy with the details. I'm just sort of spotting in enough that when I go to draw the final drawing later, I have some guide marks of what I want to draw. So just drop it in, some quick details, some buildings here and there, some smoke obviously to show that was on fire, and then some little bits of water, and that's it. This whole first panel took about 6 or 7 minutes in real time from start to finish. All right, one of the other things that I inadvertently end up doing on some of these panels is the eye flow. And so I'm going to show you that now on a new layer. So let me make a new layer here. First, let me name this one what it is, rough. All right, always name your layers. All right, change my color here to a nice green or something so we can see it. There we go. And I'm going to just start making these lines so you can see the direction that it's flowing. You can see that everything is sort of going to this vector point right here. And I kind of guesstimated a lot of that. And I put it over here to the right on purpose, almost by default, because I knew it would guide my eyes down this direction. So that's a little trick that you learn along the way. I do that a lot with my first establishing shot, but we're going to see that come into play a lot more. Okay, let's just get rid of that guy. Delete. Yes. Go back to my rough. Switch my colors back. All right, let's go into this panel. So in this panel, our character, we got Kim and Riley talking. Let's put our panel border there. I'm trying to decide if I want it to be exactly in alignment or maybe a little bit off. So I think I'm going to do that. Just a little break right here, a little break right here. Try it, see what happens. Remember, I can always change this. It's the rough. All right, so now I'm going to start on the second panel. And again, here I'm focusing in on making sure that I've got the proportions and the anatomy correct. I'm going to put in a little bit of detail, mostly just to show where I want to put the face and the eyes, which is more like measurement markers than getting too detailed. So you can see here I'm putting in a face and a mouth, but it's not going to be exactly, right. No, not exactly Riley's exact face. All right, so in this scene, Riley's walking in front of Kim, and also the camera is up above. So the things that I'm trying to make sure I've got dialed in is that the anatomy and proportions look like I'm actually looking down on the character. And then I'm also adding in a blanket or sort of thing that she's wearing because it is cold outside in this story, and previously in the story, this main character here ended up having to run out of a building wearing nothing but a hospital gown. So it's probably cold, and on this ship, they've been given some blankets. So One of the challenges with that is to get the body right. And so sometimes I will sketch in the body underneath first. And so here I am doing that. You can see, since I'm looking down, all the curves are sloping in the downward direction. So I'm putting all that body in, drawing in the arms, and then I'll go back through now and sketch in the rest of the blanket that might be covering things up. Right? All right, so I'm sketching her hand real quick. And again, this is mostly just a placeholder. When I go to do the final drawing, I might end up making slight adjustments still. But this gives me everything I need. So now let's start on the second character. Again, blocking in the head, finding the center line, the eye line, the nose line, the mouth line. These are just measurements for me for when I go back and draw it later. Now, again, I'm trying to speak in body language. So by putting her hand on her head, it gives this sort of distressed kind of feeling. When you're drawing characters that are real small like this, body language is important. Close-ups are for facial expressions. Wide shots show body language. So just trying to sketch in her body. She's wearing a dress and a coat, so I'm going to have a couple layers up underneath of there. Drop in a foot. All right, so I'm going to wrap up a few little details here. Just outline it, and then I want to put in some guidelines for the background, just so that later on when I go to draw, I know where to put things. Okay? Now, one of the key things about doing a layout is making sure that you leave room for your dialogue and checking your dialogue. So I'll often go through here and draw word balloons, but I recommend actually lettering over your rough draft, because if you've never lettered before, you don't necessarily know how big a balloon is to hold 3 or 4 words. So, I like to letter right over my rough draft to make sure, and then if I need to scale down a character or something, I can. Alright, I am going to split this video into 2 parts so it's more bite-sized chunks for you. So look for part 2 coming soon.